Blood soaked the earth, castles burned to ashes, and the thunder of marching armies echoed across Japan. The Sengoku Period, an age when warlords clashed, alliances shattered, and the samurai code was forged in fire. For nearly 150 years, Japan was torn apart by ambition and betrayal, where one wrong step could mean the fall of an empire. From the chaos of civil war emerged legendary figures whose cunning, cruelty, and courage shaped the soul of a nation. This is the untold story of how Japan's destiny was written with steel, blood, and unyielding resolve. Chapter 1. The Ashes of the Ōnin War in 1467. The Ōnin War erupted, plunging Japan into one of its darkest ages. Once powerful shoguns became figureheads as rival clans fought for supremacy in the name of their lords. Kyoto, the heart of the imperial court, was reduced to smoldering ruins, its streets littered with corpses and abandoned homes. The chaos shattered centuries of order, and Japan became a battlefield where loyalty and honor were bought with blood. The collapse of centralized power gave rise to Daimyo, warlords who commanded their own armies, their ambitions unbound by imperial decree. Samurai warriors, once bound to serve noble causes, now became blades for hire. Villages turned into recruitment grounds, farmers conscripted into armies, and entire provinces became pawns in an unending chess game of survival. Each clan fortified their castles, stockpiled weapons, and forged secret alliances that shifted as swiftly as the tides. Betrayal was inevitable, and survival depended not on honor but on cunning. Amid the ruins of the Ashikaga Shogunate, the seeds of a new Japan were sown, watered by rivers of blood. For the common people, the Sengoku Period was a nightmare with no end. Fields were burned, harvests stolen, and villages slaughtered to weaken rival clans. Banditry flourished as lawlessness spread, and the once sacred imperial court became a powerless spectator. Yet within this storm, ambition thrived. Among the rising daimyo were men whose visions extended beyond their borders. Men who dreamed of unifying a fractured nation, even if it meant drowning it in fire first. Chapter 2. Rise of the Daimyo. With the Ashikaga Shogunate weakened, ambitious daimyo seized control over vast regions. No longer content with local dominance, they sought to carve out kingdoms of their own. Castles rose like mountain fortresses across Japan, each one a symbol of power and defiance. Rival clans battled for strategic strongholds, trade routes, and fertile lands, using cunning as much as sheer force. Wars became a constant drumbeat, reshaping the political map of Japan with every passing year. Among these lords, some names began to echo across the land. Takeda Shingen, the Tiger of Kai, commanded armies with unmatched strategy. Wisugi Kenshin, the Dragon of Ekigo, was revered as a god of war, striking fear into his enemies with his relentless cavalry charges. The rivalry between Takeda and Wisugi became legendary, culminating in battles like Kawanakajima, where tens of thousands clashed without a decisive victor. These were not just wars for land, they were wars for reputation, for immortality in the annals of history. Meanwhile, alliances shifted with dizzying speed. Daimyo, who swore eternal loyalty one season, betrayed their allies the next, driven by promises of gold, land, or vengeance. Espionage became as important as open warfare, and skilled ninja were hired to infiltrate, sabotage, and assassinate. In this age, trust was a luxury few could afford. Yet, amid the chaos, one daimyo would soon rise above them all, a man whose vision would change Japan forever. Oda Nobunaga. Chapter 3. Oda Nobunaga, the Demon Lord of Owari. Born in 1534, Oda Nobunaga was considered reckless, eccentric, and unpredictable by his peers. Few believed he would amount to anything. Yet, behind his wild persona lay a brilliant strategist and a visionary leader. In an era dominated by tradition, Nobunaga broke every rule. He embraced firearms, imported from Portuguese traders, and revolutionized warfare in Japan. With muskets, Nobunaga's armies became unstoppable, cutting down cavalry charges and rendering old tactics obsolete. Nobunaga's rise began with the Battle of Okayazama in 1560, where his vastly outnumbered forces crushed Imagawa Yoshimoto's army through cunning ambush tactics. This stunning victory announced Nobunaga's arrival on the stage of power, forcing rival daimyo to take him seriously. From there, he expanded relentlessly, forging alliances where needed and destroying those who opposed him. His armies stormed castles, burned temples, and left a trail of devastation in their wake. Nobunaga's ruthless ambition earned him the title Demon King of the Sixth Heaven among his enemies. Yet he was more than just a conqueror. He was a reformer. He centralized power, broke the stranglehold of Buddhist warrior monks, and opened trade routes that strengthened his economy. Nobunaga was laying the foundation for a unified Japan, but his audacity also bred resentment. Among his allies lurked men whose loyalty was as fragile as a blade of grass in the wind. Chapter 4. The Fall of the Demon King. Despite his brilliance, Nobunaga's meteoric rise made him as many enemies as allies. His boldness and lack of reverence for tradition angered powerful factions, including warrior monks and rival daimyo. In 1582, one of his closest generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, betrayed him. Nobunaga was ambushed at the Honnoji Temple in Kyoto, surrounded by flames as Mitsuhide's forces closed in. Rather than surrender, Nobunaga committed seppuku, ending his life but cementing his legend. Nobunaga's death plunged Japan back into uncertainty. His vast territories and alliances now hung in the balance, and rival warlords prepared to tear apart his legacy. But among Nobunaga's generals was a man of unmatched cunning and ambition, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the son of a poor peasant who rose through sheer determination. Hideyoshi would avenge his master and pick up where Nobunaga left off. The betrayal at Honnoji marked a turning point in the Sengoku period. It was a stark reminder that in an age of warring states, no one, no matter how powerful, was untouchable. Yet Nobunaga's vision of a unified Japan had taken root, and Hideyoshi would stop at nothing to see it fulfilled. Chapter 5. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the peasant who became a ruler born into poverty. Toyotomi Hideyoshi rose from obscurity to become one of the greatest figures in Japanese history. Without noble blood or formal education, Hideyoshi relied on intelligence, charisma, and an uncanny ability to read people. He quickly climbed the ranks under Nobunaga's command, proving his worth on the battlefield and in delicate negotiations. After Nobunaga's death, Hideyoshi moved swiftly to consolidate power. Hideyoshi avenged his fallen master at the Battle of Yamazaki, defeating Mitsuhide and securing Nobunaga's territories. He proved himself a master tactician, using diplomacy as much as warfare to bring rival daimyo under his banner. Where Nobunaga inspired fear, Hideyoshi inspired loyalty, or at least submission. His ability to unite fractured clans without endless bloodshed set him apart from his predecessors. By 1590, Hideyoshi had achieved what few thought possible. He brought almost all of Japan under his control. From peasant to ruler, his story was unprecedented, yet his ambition did not end at Japan's shores. Hideyoshi dreamed of expanding his empire across Asia, launching invasions of Korea that would ultimately drain his resources and weaken his authority. Chapter 6: Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient strategist. While Nobunaga and Hideyoshi dominated Japan's political landscape, one daimyo quietly played a longer game. Tokugawa Ieyasu, born in 1543 to a minor clan, Ieyasu survived childhood as a political hostage, learning firsthand the ruthlessness of power. Unlike Nobunaga's bold aggression or Hideyoshi's charisma, Ieyasu was deliberate, cautious, and calculating. He understood that victory often belonged not to the strongest, but to the one who could endure the longest. Ieyasu allied himself with Nobunaga early on, strengthening his power base in Mikawa province and securing strategic alliances. After Nobunaga's death, he initially submitted to Hideyoshi's authority, biding his time while expanding his influence behind the scenes. Unlike other daimyo, Ieyasu avoided unnecessary battles, consolidating wealth, recruiting skilled samurai, and strengthening his castles. By the time Hideyoshi's health began to fail, Ieyasu had positioned himself as the most powerful daimyo in Japan. He waited patiently, knowing the inevitable succession crisis would plunge the nation into conflict once again. When the time came, Ieyasu would not hesitate to claim the prize that had eluded so many before him: absolute control of Japan. Chapter 7: The Korean Invasions and Hideyoshi's Fall, flush with power after unifying Japan. Toyotomi Hideyoshi turned his gaze outward, envisioning a Japanese empire stretching across Asia. In 1592, he launched a massive invasion of Korea, deploying hundreds of thousands of samurai in one of history's largest overseas campaigns. At first, Japanese forces swept through Korean defenses with terrifying speed, their muskets and disciplined formations overwhelming local armies. However, Hideyoshi underestimated Korea's resilience and China's intervention. Korean Admiral Yi Sun-sin devastated the Japanese navy with his revolutionary turtle ships, severing supply lines and crippling Japan's ability to sustain its forces. On land, attrition and guerrilla resistance ground the campaign into a bloody stalemate. The once invincible samurai now found themselves mired in foreign territory, far from home and resources. By 1598, Hideyoshi's health deteriorated, and his death ended Japan's ambitions on the Korean peninsula. His failed invasions weakened the Toyotomi clan, drained Japan's coffers, and emboldened rivals like Tokugawa Ieyasu. The dream of an Asian empire died with Hideyoshi, but his passing set the stage for the final, decisive chapter of the Sengoku period. Chapter 8: The battle lines are drawn. After Hideyoshi's death, a power vacuum consumed Japan. His young son, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, was too inexperienced to lead, leaving a council of regents, including Tokugawa Ieyasu, to govern in his stead. But Ieyasu's ambitions soon became clear, and factions split into two camps: the Eastern Army, loyal to Tokugawa, and the Western Army, supporting the Toyotomi legacy under Ishida Mitsunari. Tensions escalated rapidly as both sides fortified castles, recruited samurai, and prepared for war. Espionage, assassinations, and shifting alliances defined the years leading up to the decisive conflict. Entire clans faced the agonizing choice of loyalty or survival. knowing that backing the wrong side could mean annihilation. By 1600, the stage was set for the largest battle in Japanese history. Over 160,000 warriors would meet on a fog-shrouded plain in Sekigahara. Victory would determine the fate of Japan, ending over a century of civil war and shaping the nation's destiny for centuries to come. Chapter 9: The Battle of Sekigahara. On October 21, 1600, the armies of East and West collided in a clash of unimaginable scale. Samurai banners filled the horizon, drums thundered across the valley, and muskets roared as the fog lifted over Sekigahara. Tokugawa Ieyasu commanded a disciplined force of around 75,000, while Ishida Mitsunari led 80,000 under the Toyotomi banner. Both sides knew this would be the battle that decided Japan's future. At first, the Western army held the advantage, pressing Ieyasu's forces hard. But Ieyasu had outplayed Mitsunari before the battle even began. Through secret diplomacy and promises of reward, he persuaded several key Western generals, including Kobayaka Hideyoshi, to betray Mitsunari mid-battle. As the betrayal unfolded, chaos spread through the Western ranks, turning strength into weakness in an instant. By the day's end, Tokugawa Ieyasu stood victorious. Mitsunari fled, but was soon captured and executed. With Sekigahara won, Ieyasu became the undisputed master of Japan. The Sengoku period's blood-soaked chessboard had a new king, and the era of constant war was drawing to a close. Chapter 10: The Rise of the Tokugawa Shogunate. In 1603, Tokugawa Ieyasu was officially appointed shogun by the emperor, marking the birth of the Tokugawa Shogunate. Unlike previous rulers, Ieyasu crafted a system designed to prevent future chaos. He imposed strict control over the daimyo, requiring them to maintain alternate residence in Edo, a policy known as Senkenkeitai, ensuring loyalty by keeping their families effectively as hostages. Under Tokugawa rule, samurai were transformed from independent warriors into bureaucrats and administrators. The once unchecked power of daimyo was tightly managed, castles were regulated, and unauthorized wars were forbidden. For the first time in centuries, Japan experienced lasting stability. This new era would last for over 250 years, known as the Edo period. Trade flourished, arts and culture thrived, and Japan entered a time of relative isolation under the Sakoku policy. Yet beneath the peace lay the fading embers of a once ferocious samurai spirit, remembered only in stories, songs, and the legends of the Sengoku period. Chapter 11: The Way of the Samurai. During the Sengoku period, the samurai were more than warriors. They were living embodiments of honor, loyalty, and discipline. Guided by the principles of bushido, they devoted their lives to their lords, facing death without fear. A samurai's katana was considered his soul, forged with precision and passed through generations like sacred relics. Yet, the Sengoku era tested the very limits of these ideals. Loyalty often clashed with survival, and many samurai found themselves switching allegiances to protect their families or seize opportunity. While some upheld bushido with unwavering devotion, others became mercenaries, fighting not for honor but for gold. Despite these contradictions, the samurai's legacy endured. Their stories of battlefield bravery, solemn duels, and unbreakable oaths became cultural pillars that shaped Japan's identity long after the Sengoku fires burned out. Chapter 12: Shadows in the Night, Ninja and Espionage. In a world dominated by open warfare, there was another kind of battle, one fought in silence and shadows. The Sengoku period gave rise to the legendary ninja, masters of espionage, sabotage, and assassination. Operating from regions like Iga and Koga, these covert agents became essential tools for daimyo seeking advantage over rivals. Ninja infiltrated enemy castles, gathered intelligence, and spread misinformation to sow confusion before major battles. While samurai fought for honor, ninja thrived in secrecy, their very existence often denied by those who employed them. Their tactics blurred the lines between heroism and villainy, earning both reverence and fear. Though their exact histories remain clouded, the ninjas' influence on Sengoku warfare was profound. They became symbols of cunning and adaptability in an age where brute force alone was never enough to survive. Chapter 13: Castles of War. The Sengoku period transformed Japan's landscape with the rise of massive castles designed not just as residences, but as military fortresses. Structures like Himeji Castle, Osaka Castle, and Azuchi Castle became symbols of power, boasting intricate defenses, towering keeps, and labyrinthine designs to thwart attackers. These castles were centers of administration, strategy, and propaganda. They projected the daimyo's strength while protecting samurai and civilians during sieges. Innovations in stonework, moats, and weapon placements reflected the evolution of warfare during this period. The fall of a castle often signaled the end of a clan's power, making these structures pivotal in shaping Sengoku history. Their towering silhouettes remain enduring monuments to an age of ambition, bloodshed, and architectural brilliance. Chapter 14: The Final Siege, Osaka Castle after Tokugawa's rise. One last threat to his authority remained: the Toyotomi clan, still holding power at Osaka Castle. In 1614, Ieyasu launched a massive campaign to crush them once and for all. The winter siege of Osaka saw Tokugawa forces surround the formidable fortress, bombarding it with relentless attacks. Although a temporary truce was reached, tensions erupted again in 1615 during the summer siege of Osaka. Tokugawa's armies stormed the castle, overwhelming Toyotomi defenses in brutal close-quarters combat. In the end, Toyotomi Hideyoshi and his mother committed seppuku, marking the complete destruction of the Toyotomi legacy. With Osaka Castle fallen, resistance against Tokugawa rule ended. The Sengoku period's final embers were extinguished, and Japan entered a new age of peace under Tokugawa dominance. Chapter 15: The Legacy of the Sengoku Period. Though the Sengoku period ended in 1615, its impact on Japan was eternal. It shaped the country's political systems, cultural identity, and military traditions. The unification under Tokugawa brought stability, but the spirit of the Sengoku warriors, their ambition, bravery, and adaptability, continued to inspire generations. Samurai legends became part of Japan's cultural fabric, immortalized in literature, art, and theater. The stories of Nobunaga's audacity, Hideyoshi's rise from peasant to ruler, and Ieyasu's patient mastery became timeless lessons in leadership, strategy, and human nature. The Sengoku period remains a testament to both the chaos of war and the resilience of a nation. From blood-soaked battlefields to towering castles, it forged modern Japan through fire, ambition, and the unyielding will of its people. The Sengoku period was an age of endless strife, but it was also a crucible that shaped Japan's destiny. From the clash of samurai blades to the fall of mighty warlords, this was a time when every decision carried the weight of life and death. The Though centuries have passed, the echoes of this turbulent era still resonate in Japan's culture, traditions, and legends. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Japan's most violent and transformative age, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe for more epic history documentaries. And tell us, which Sengoku leader do you think was the true architect of Japan's unification?